Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to another video in the Woodsman ways. Firstly, as every video in this series kind of follows suit, this video was prompted by questions that I've had, or just things that I think about and the way I think about them. And just a little disclaimer here at the beginning of the video. Again, this is just my personal insights on things. It's not, the way to do things. It's a way. So don't take any of the stuff personal. And to go along with that, don't think that I'm trying to talk derogatory towards people or put people down or lessen them to me, so to speak. That's not the case at all. I shoot videos, for education, for entertainment and stuff like that. So take what I say with a grain of salt, and let's keep it civil here. The question that was asked to me, and bear in mind that this pertains to more long-term type stuff, being out in the woods, and not so much your short-term survival scenarios and stuff like that. So to go along with me here, just think more long-term. So the question that was asked to me numerous times by at least a couple people, and probably 20 times maybe over the years, and the question is, again, thinking long term here, if you were in a situation long term, what do you do out there, or what are some of the things you do out there to kill time? And for a long time, I didn't even entertain the idea of answering that question. And more recently, it was asked, by a couple people several times. So I thought it fit to shoot that in this video series and talk about it, so it's shared with everybody. At first, I kind of chuckled to myself. I kind of took it, as a trick type question, in that, 24 hours in a day isn't enough time to begin with. So thinking about what would I do out here to kill time and occupy my mind, which there's good reasons for thinking that way, because you need to keep busy, you need to occupy your mind. But my belief is that there's no time to be killed. You're already in a dilemma with having not enough time to begin with. There's always something to do. So I thought what we'd do here today is move over to the whiteboard. I'll kind of write some things out to you guys so you can see them as I talk about them, and maybe keep looking at them as I run my mouth here. But I think it'll be easier that way, and I can kind of write down and explain to you guys exactly how I think about this, and maybe we'll all learn something. So let me adjust the camera, we'll move to the whiteboard, and we'll get started. Alright, so I'm trying to save myself some room here, so I apologize if you can't see these clearly. They are kind of small probably for you guys, but I'll just go ahead and tell you what the topics are here. First category is the 6 survival priorities. Both of my basic and advanced classes follow the 6 survival priorities in different ways depending on the class, but that's what I focus here at the Woodsman School on. So we're going to go ahead and run through those again and talk a little bit about them. And then as far as the killing time goes, we're going to talk about some of the things as far as the 6 survival priorities go, and what you need to do out of all of them to maintain them, first of all, which is our middle category, maintain. And then the last category is, what are you going to do to improve your situation? And we'll get to that further as I go here. So we'll first list out the 6 survival priorities and what they are. Alright, so if you can deal with my chicken scratch here, 6 survival priorities that never change. And again, we've talked about this in other videos. The only thing that changes them is your situation, and the situation will dictate to you which of these priorities are more important at the given time. So fire, and again in no particular order because situation dictates that to you. We have fire, shelter, water, food, hygiene and first aid I put together hand in hand as number 5, and then signaling and navigation for number 6, and they go hand in hand as well as far as I'm concerned anyways. So let's start out with fire and talk about that a little bit, and how do we equate that or compare that to what we have to do in a long-term situation. So once we get fire, obviously that's something we have to maintain, whether it be gathering firewood, making sure we have the resources and conserve resources to enable us to make fires, you know, moving forward long term. So in the maintain category, fire is still there, so we're going to add that to the maintain category. Now in the warmer months, and I think, you know, I see this a lot, so I'll just say it, you know, and call it how I see it. In the warmer months, people tend to not really want a fire or think they need a fire, and I think that's a big mistake. Maybe you don't want one right now because it's too warm, but you have to constantly collect firewood. That's a maintain your situation, you know, type topic there. So even though I have a good stack of wood, maybe for the night, maybe for a couple days, if I have the time and I'm not busy doing something else, I should be trying to gather more firewood, because it's not out of the norm to get a week's worth of rain straight. So think about that for a second. If I'm under my shelter, under my tarp, debris hut, whatever it is, and I've gathered enough firewood for a day or two, and I feel I don't need a fire, you know, right now, and then I get hit with a week worth of rain, I'm going to stop burning through that day or two worth of firewood that I have. Now I'm putting myself in an adverse situation where I have to go out and collect more firewood in the rain. Alright, so all the other things that go along with that come into play at that point. You know, just because it's summertime, you know, springtime and fall time more importantly, where, you know, it can get real cool at night, which it still does up here in the mountains in New Hampshire. If I go ahead and get myself wet and I don't have the firewood anymore and I got to go out and collect it, well, if I can't get a fire going that night and I'm wet, I just put myself in a bad situation for no reason. So firewood in any condition, you have to maintain that. You have to be actively, you know, going out and collecting more firewood to make sure you're going to have it when you need it. And again, this is more long-term stuff that I'm talking about, but I think that kind of goes for any situation. So that pretty much covers our fire. Let's talk about shelter. Shelter also is going to fall in the maintain category, so we'll just add it there. And that all depends on, you know, what you have for a shelter, obviously. You know, if you have a tarp set up or something like that, you're going to have to maintain what's around it. You may have to, you know, tighten up ridge lines and, you know, stuff like that through time. Again, if we're thinking long term here, come the colder months, though it's been done, you know, by woodsmen of days past, you know, effectively and efficiently, a tarp is not ideal for the winter months. It's just not. You can go out there and you can make it for a few days, you can make it for a week or two probably, but let's face it, that's not the ideal shelter, you know, long term. So you're going to need some type of permanent shelter, and you're going to have to fabricate that. So you're going to have to maintain what you have if you've already built a more permanent shelter. You're going to have to maintain your tarp setup if that's all you have. But improving your situation is you're going to constantly have to, you know, maintain and or make your shelter better. all right, more livable, more functional, more comfortable, stuff like that. So shelter also falls into the improve your situation category. All right, so let's move on to water. Obviously, you know, here at my camp I have a water source close by, but what do I have to contain water that I've already disinfected? Depending on what you have what you have for containers is going to play a big role in that, obviously. So if you just have, you know, a couple Gaia bottles or something like that, it's going to be constantly, you know, boil it, let it cool down, drink it, refill it, boil it, let it cool down. That's a non-stop process. If you have a bigger container to where you can boil and just dump and have a cache of water, obviously you're better off at that point. But maintaining your situation, water definitely falls into there as well. So we'll add it there. Looking further and long term, improving your situation, there's things you can do, certain things you can make if you don't have the containers you need to stockpile water. It could be as easy as finding some type of, you know, trash pile where you can get something out of there, get it clean, and have something to dump your water in. So improving your situation, water is going to have to fall in that category as well. Alright, which brings us to the next one, which is food. Obviously, a long-term situation, no matter how much food you packed in on your back, you're going to have to procure food at some point, whether it's fishing, hunting, trapping, something like that. You're going to have to do it. So that's maintaining your situation by one of those means. Alright, so food, we're going to have to maintain that in order to make it long term. Improving your situation as far as food, you know, the longer you're in a certain area, the more you can read the landscape, obviously, the more you can kind of nail home what's going on around you as far as the animals, what are there for food larders, you know, water sources, stuff like that. What are the animals doing? What are the animals eating at certain times of the year and things like that. So scouting around, tracking, reading the landscape, all of that plays into food greatly. So we can go ahead and chalk food up in the improved situation as far as that's concerned, because there's things we can do to make it easier for ourselves, you know, long term. Alright, which brings us to first aid and hygiene. Hygiene doesn't cover just yourself, it covers your gear as well, your clothing and all that stuff. So again, long term speaking, you have to figure out a way to wash yourself and take care of your gear, wash your clothes, stuff like that. And I plan on doing videos here in the near future on that topic specifically. But as far as hygiene, obviously again, there's things you can do, you know, resources from animals that you're getting, resources from fires that you've had, stuff like that. You can go ahead and make soap. Not that you absolutely have to have it, but it's nice to feel clean. And again, just jumping in a lake and, you know, rubbing yourself down, you'll feel a whole lot better. You'll be a lot cleaner. So hygiene for yourself, hygiene for your equipment and your clothes. Again, same type of solution. You have resources around you that you can go ahead and take care of your clothes. There's different ways you can go ahead and do that, and again, we'll talk about those in future videos. First aid, again, there's only so much you can carry in on your back. So the limited supplies you have with you for first aid, more importantly, you know, medicine type stuff, you just need to be smart, you know, with medicinal plants, and that's a fact. So I don't like to teach that here because I don't really like to give medical advice. Things I've tried, I'd rather you didn't try unless you've researched it yourself and you feel confident enough to do that yourself. But just to say, not that you're going to find alcohol out here in the woods, But you know, if you're smart enough and you're hip to the game about making tinctures and stuff like that, stuff you can store, is going to help you again long term. You know, decoctions, same thing, you can make those up, they'll store for a good while, and now you've just made yourself medicine again. And all that stuff is maintaining your situation and improving your situation. So hygiene and first aid, we're going to go right across the board on both of those. It falls into both categories. And last but not least, signaling and navigation. Pretty basic concepts. I'm going to go ahead and toss that up as non-applicable here, because if you're doing something more long-term like that, chances are you probably want to be there. You're not looking to be rescued. You can probably, you know, navigate yourself around fairly well, so we're just going to chalk both of these up to not applicable. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that here on the screen for a few seconds so you guys can kind of see how that goes. And not that fire couldn't been put into the improve your situation category too, because you know very well it could have. Making, you know, charred material from the landscape, be it punk wood, be it, you know, in a pith of plants and stuff like that. We've all seen that before. Gathering firewood, that's improving your situation. So you know, fire very well could be in the improved situation category as well. So pretty much 5 out of the 6 survival priorities both fall under maintaining and improving your situation. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. I think you guys have seen that. You can pause the video if not. Go ahead and read it. And what I mentioned earlier on in the video that we would talk about. As far as killing time goes anyways, again, I don't believe there's a such thing. I believe that, you know, long term you don't have enough time. And I'll show you a few things around camp here that go hand in hand with what I'm about to write on the board here, and I think you'll get the picture a little bit better. So in my mind, when it comes to killing time, there's 2 words essentially that mean the same thing. And as you've seen, each one of those survival priorities has to be maintained. Long term, it absolutely has to be maintained. So I'm going to add in these 2 words that mean the same thing, and we'll talk about it for a little bit. Alright, so not sure if you can see that from there or not, but woodcraft and bushcraft means the same thing. So this is going to consume whatever time you have left, if any, depending on the situation you're in. Woodcrafting and bushcrafting is all geared towards improving your situation. So let's talk about that for a second. So again, you know, woodcrafting and bushcrafting, same thing. Again, I think that type of stuff is gonna, you know, fill up the rest of your time, whatever, you know, amount of time that could be, if any. And again, it's gonna be geared towards improving your situation. So any little woodcraft slash bushcraft project that you do is only helping yourself out. You know, I'm not going to sit here and do camp chores, you know, maybe carve out a spoon or a bowl just to kill time. Everything you do out here affects your situation and improves it at the same time. So, you know, just laying down under my tarp on my blanket to get rest, that's not killing time. That you're actually doing something there. And I had a talk about this topic with a good friend of mine, and you know, we're kind of seeing eye to eye on it, so that's good. I'm not the only one thinking this way, I guess. But all this stuff, to me, guys, it seems like common sense, but again, what prompted the video is I've had so many questions about it. So it leads me to believe that, you know, maybe it's not so common sense. And I just wanted to throw it out there. So I'm going to show you some things right here around camp that, you know, are geared towards improving your situation. One is the stump I'm sitting on. It's a seat. I'm up off the ground, I'm sitting comfortably. I don't have to sit under my tarp on my wool blanket. You know, this is a little bit more comfortable. I can roll this thing around by the fire, away from the fire, whatever the case may be, and it's making life, you know, that much easier for me out here. So let's take a look at some other things around here, and they kind of do the same thing. Alright, so something I've already done a video on. Simple little cook setup. Something I can hang a couple pots over the fire, give myself the opportunity to cook right in the fire as well as above it. This isn't a project to kill time. This is a project to improve my situation and make my living conditions a little bit better. Alright, and just a different type cooking setup. Tripod, the little toggle hanging from it so I could hang a pot over it. Down in the end we've got a log, a couple Y branches holding our prop stick up. We can hang a pot over that as well. So this gives us, you know, numerous different abilities to hang pots, throw a frying pan right in the fire and stuff like that. Again, it's not a project to kill time, it's a project to improve your situation. And this is very much, you know, woodcrafting and bushcrafting. Alright, so right here, net making. Couple different types of bank line, different thicknesses, creating a big throw type net, fishing type net. This is going to help me in the food department maintain and improve my situation. And this is just not a camp chore again that I'm doing to waste time, to kill time and occupy my mind. This is going to eat up a lot of time, and it's going to occupy my mind at the same time, but that's not the reason I'm doing it. The reason I'm doing it is to improve my situation. Alright, same thing here, different type of net. This is actually, you can use it as a scoop net if you wanted to for minnows and such. You could go ahead and add a couple more rings to this and make it a minnow trap, so you don't have to actively, you know, scoop for fish. You can just throw it in and you've got yourself some bait for fishing and trapping. So again, just a different type of net. Again, it's not a project I'm doing to, you know, fill my time up. Alright, so from my last advanced class up here, I actually had a student ask if he could teach a class. And I thought that was absolutely awesome. And I was confident in him enough and trusted him enough to do that. He kind of filled me in before the class ever started, but I think that's good stuff. But just another woodcraft or bushcraft type project, something else you can do. He showed myself as well as the other students how to make a wood bowl from birch bark. He also showed how to make a wood cup out of birch bark. And these are easy. You know, I've seen and done these things before. I was more on the Ray Mears style of it. You know, a legit container that took a little bit more time. Something like this could be crafted up, you know, in under a half an hour with no sweat at all. So again, birch bark bowl. This gives me, and it is waterproof, we tested that. Boil my water if I only had one container, dump it in here, and I have a reserve. Alright, so woodcrafting and bushcrafting, improving my situation. That's what it's all about when you're talking long term. Alright guys, so I appreciate you joining me for this video. Hopefully, you know, my intent with a lot of my videos is just to open up some minds, you know, get you thinking past that 50-meter target, you know, thinking more long term, and how are you going to set yourself up for success, you know, in the long run. You know, the short-term survival things kind of been beaten to death. I like the more long-term aspect of things anyway, but again, just shot this because I was asked the question numerous times, you know, what do I do out here to kill time? Well, you know, I don't have enough time, like I said, so always doing something. It's always purposeful. There's a reason for it, and there's no such thing out here to me as killing time. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you real soon with another one. Till then, take care.